I'm Bronco Tryhard, and I'm the host of this podcast.
That's right. And my name is Patrick, and I'm your guest. And Bronco Tryhard is too busy to introduce this episode. So, as your guest, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Patrick. I'm the host of the Bikes for Death podcast. Recently on Instagram, I hit 10,000 followers, which is kind of cool. It's a lot of people, gonna be honest. And I've seen some other people do Ask Me Anythings, and I've always tried to stay as much behind the scenes as I can for a podcast host. But I decided to open up the questions to you and see what you want to know. And Bronco Tryhard was willing and gracious enough to ask me the questions, so I didn't have to just sit in my house and answer questions to myself. Hopefully today's episode is a mix of fun and entertainment and information. And if you don't like it, then that's okay. And we'll be back to your normally scheduled bike packing podcast next week. But we did cover a lot of different topics, some serious, some silly, and it kind of ran the gamut. But you asked the questions. I did my best to answer them. And Bronco Tryhard did an excellent job hosting today's episode. So if you want to hear more from us, just tune into today's episode. But before we get to it, let's take a moment to appreciate everybody who made today's episode possible, starting with our newest patron, Harry Mahler. Harry, thank you. You are this week's newest and only patron. You are carrying this podcast on your back this week for patrons. So thank you, Harry, for stepping up. And if you would like to join him and find out how you can support this podcast, you can go over to patreon.com/bikesfordeath and read all about it. And today's episode is also brought to us by my friends over at Ruby Coffee. And I have Jesse here to tell us about... You know, Jesse, what I really wanted to talk about today was, we know that Ruby Coffee makes great coffee. We've talked about that. But what makes Ruby a great company outside of the coffee?
Yeah, I think the sort of cliched response that people always give to these questions is that what makes us special is the people at Ruby, but I think it really is true. Our team is really dedicated to a couple of things. Our production team is really excited about getting coffees packed and shipped in an efficient and correct manner every day. Our customer support team is always excited to answer questions. I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that we are a small company and we're a very small group of people, and we're all really excited about what we're doing. So if you try to send a customer support question to a bigger company, sometimes it takes a bit of time for a response, or if you order something online, maybe it takes a couple days to get going. One of the things we love is that if you order coffee from us, it's getting shipped out within a day or two, depending on, if you order on the weekend or not. But if you send us a customer support question, we're answering it the same day. We're all just really passionate to share what we love about coffee with our customers. We get all sorts of questions. Sometimes it's as simple as, hey, do you know when this coffee is going to roast and ship? Or, hey, I'm wondering which blend is the best one for me. And those are pretty easy, but we do a lot of troubleshooting too. If somebody says, hey, I loved your coffee when I got it at this coffee shop, but I can't get it to taste the same at home. We love trying to troubleshoot, all your brewing methods at home, or maybe there's something with your water quality or the grind size that you're using. Those are all really, really fun because it allows us to kind of like a not just troubleshoot, but it's almost like a mystery that we get to solve with the person who's asking.
Jesse, thank you so much for coming on today's episode and talking to us about Ruby. Now, listeners, if this sounds like the kind of company that you would like to support and maybe try their coffee, head over to rubycoffeeroasters.com. And when you check out, use the promo code BikesOrDeath, all one word, for 15% off your first order or 20% off your first order of a subscription. Today's episode is also brought to us by Kuat, and I have my friend Tom Lampy here to talk to us about some of the other racks available from Kuat. Tom, we've been talking a lot about the Piston Pro X, which is really exciting. I'm personally excited to see that new rack. But the truth is, you'll have a lot of other bike racks. And so I thought we could spend today highlighting some of maybe your best sellers or ones that you want people to know about.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, the Piston Pro X is pretty exciting. So we have talked a lot about that, but I don't want to forget about our great line of bike racks. I mean, we've been around for a bit, and we have developed this, really, I think, impressive range of bike racks, for price point and features and everything. So I'm happy to talk about some of those.
Do y'all have a best seller?
Sure. So the NV 2.0 is it's our flagship rack. It's the one that, everybody I think knows the best. We sell the most of these, and the NV is a pretty diverse rack. It holds bikes from, like a road bike, gravel, all the way up to kind of a 60-pound e-bike. So it's pretty diverse and does a lot. It's also expandable. So it's one of our racks in the line that, can carry 2 bikes and then up to 4. So it has a lot of range. Even from that, we also have a rack called our Sherpa 2.0, which has been around just about as long as the NV has, but it's a neat rack because it only weighs like 32 pounds. It's one of the lightest racks in its class. It only has a 2-bike capacity, so it's not expandable like our NV is, but it's a beautiful, sleek, lightweight rack for anyone who wants, to carry 2 bikes and would like that ease of, removal and installation, if they plan on doing that over and over again. Our price point rack, so here going kind of down the line from the Sherpa, we have a line called the Transfer V2, and this is kind of like our price point rack. Now, it's not void of any features. It still has a lot going for it, even in that price point range. And one of the racks in that category, there's the Transfer V2 in our 2-bike 2-inch model specifically is RV compatible, which is it's a neat feature for hitch-mounted bike racks. Most of them are not RV compatible. So this one fits that, and it's also a great price at like $350.
The rack I have is the NV 2.0 base.
Yeah, so our NV family includes that NV 2.0 base. So the big difference between those two racks, our NV has an integrated work stand in the rack. So you can fix your bike really anywhere. Hang it up for lube the chain real quick or fix a tire, whatever you like. Now, the base is the NV rack, but minus that work stand. So if you want the NV features like the carrying capacity and the expandability, but you don't think you'll use that work stand feature, the base is a great alternative. It drops the price point a little bit, makes it a little more affordable.
Yeah, man, I've been super happy with mine. I think I've had it I was thinking before we hopped on, I think I'm going on about 3.5 years with it. Okay. And we all love bikes. We don't want anything to happen to our bikes. And for me, Kuat has been an excellent rack. So yeah, I appreciate you coming on and sharing some of the other options and features that y'all have available over there. And if people want to learn more about Kuat, where can they go, Tom?
Well, a good resource for information would be our website, kuat.com. Our customer service is also a good resource for questions. I'm a little biased, but I think we have the best customer service in the business. So if you need anything, don't be afraid to give us a shout.
Awesome, dude. Well, thanks again.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Okay. We have paid our bills and we are ready to get to today's episode. One quick note that this episode starts out a little... we just dive right in. Essentially, Matt and I were talking. We hit record, and I have a tendency of doing this where I'm not very good at starting podcasts. I just start talking and hit record, and we don't really always have a good start point. And so Ben, our editor, has to pick a good space to just kind of jump in, and that's what you hear. And what I'm talking about here in the very beginning is an episode that came out a few episodes ago that raised some controversy on the internet. I got a lot of messages, a lot of feedback, and I took some time to reflect on all of that, on your feedback, on the episode, on my thoughts, and We are going to address that right off the bat, and then we're going to get to your questions. So without further ado, let's have Miles Arbor kick it off with the Bikes for Death theme song.
You load up your bike, you ride away from home. You could be with your friends or you could be alone. You ride for a day or maybe more. You just love being in the great outdoors. Everything you need is strapped to your bars, including that new pillow you got from Santa Claus. And then you think, oh shit, to yourself. You left that super lightweight tent on the living room shelf. Bikes or death. Bikes or death. Podcast.
I'm disappointed in myself, I think is the overall feeling. You know, the people that know me know that I make mistakes on the podcast a lot. You know, I say things that I don't agree with. Sometimes, you know, I listen back to an edit and I'm just like, what? You know, and I'm shocked at what comes out of my mouth sometimes, and I'm disappointed in myself and I cringe at myself. And I have conversations with my friends. You're one of them that I'll call from time to time and walk through problems and talk through things. Dr. Seth Wood was one, and my buddy Ryan hears a lot of stuff. But, you know, this is a process and a journey that I'm on, and one thing I've really tried to do from the very, very, very beginning was just be myself. And it was important to me to be an example of being a human and not editing myself to be a perfect person, because a perfect person isn't reality. And I think people are sick and tired of edited, perfect, you know, perfectly delivered and curated content to make you like engaged and all this stuff. I'm like, fuck all that, you know? And I mean, seriously, you know,
I agree. No, I agree.
Yeah, I know you agree. And but this is just an opportunity for me, I think, again, to just acknowledge that I misrepresented myself. And there's a lot of reasons why I think that happened, and we can get into those if you want to. But essentially, I misrepresented myself badly. It's the most egregious mistake that I've personally made on the podcast since it started. And I appreciate some of the feedback I got. Some of the feedback I got was a little aggressive, and I understand that's just the internet, but I really am a person, and those things they affect me. You know, it's difficult to be wrong. You know, and so, you know, moral of the story for me is that again, I take these things to heart, and I take them as an opportunity to improve. And I think, you know, that's what, I mean, we can zoom out and apply that to anything, whether we're talking about failures in bike packing or your endurance or whatever in life. We fail, and that is just life, you know, but it's learning from those things. And I'm okay, you know, kind of putting myself out there as an example to some extent of, yeah, I fuck up. Yes, I say things that are incorrect or I don't mean, and I could take it down and I could censor and I could do all these things, but I've made a commitment not to just be like, okay, I messed up, and that's gonna really motivate this whole feeling. You know, I called you the other day because you know, it's weighing on me, right? And that's not going to go away. That was a learning experience that ultimately I'm grateful for. You know, I mean, I think until then it's just words, but you know, yeah, I messed up, and sorry.
No, I mean, I think it is sometimes that simple though. Like, I messed up and I'm human, and you know, but people coming at you aggressively, that doesn't solve the problem or lead to any sort of resolution that's helpful for anybody. Yeah. You know what I mean? When I heard those comments, and I'm like, well, my first thought was, I don't know if that's where Patrick really is on this. You know what I mean? Like, I'll just ask him. I won't accuse him of doing something. I'll just ask him and say, hey, well, how do you really feel about that?
Yeah.
And then we can start a dialogue like that. A whole idea of, which you've said a lot on the podcast, I just want to have a long form discussion about people and meet them where they are and see what's going on and figure it out. And you can't do that when you're just like right off the bat, hey, you're an asshole for what you said. And then,
no, you can't. And I don't go into a conversation really looking for controversy. I'm not a controversial person by nature, and
we don't have to talk about this right now. We can work into it if you want.
No,
am I the host? Am I the host? Are you going to say, and as always, I'm your host, Patrick? Or is it going to be, as never before, I'm the host, Bronco Tryhard?
Yeah. If I was the host, I would ask you about this new Instagram switch in your name, but I'm not, so I'll leave that up to you.
Don't.
But
accept that my name is Bronco Tryhard and just go with it. All
right, Bronco. Do I have to say the whole thing, or?
I'd prefer, but we don't have to for this.
Bronco Tryhard. Here's where I'm at. I want to address that thing that, whatever first, and then we could do whatever you want to do, because it has been eating at me. It's driving, it's like I think about it a lot. And so ultimately I can only be accountable for the way that, I hold myself and I represent myself and the things that I say and I do. And I kind of said most of the stuff that I wanted to say, but recently Whoopi Goldberg has been, made the news because she said something completely stupid, and like, I'm not even sure if she really believes that. Like, I wonder if we could like have a conversation with her if she misrepresented her own, because it's so wrong. It's like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's either she's really dumb or, whatever. But the point is like, Whoopi is an actress. She's been on TV. She's been in movies. She is a professional, and she just fucked up well into her seasoned career and said something, crazy. And I'm just like a regular guy that picked up a microphone, started to talk to people about bikes, and never expected any of this. And never, I just, it's grown a lot. I'm not like a professional speaker. I'm not a professional conversationalist. I'm not a trained anything in this regard. And, I'm human. I make mistakes, and that was certainly one of them. More than anything, I wish I could have just gone back and, had a do-over, because I don't think it's fair to have a conversation without the other party, because maybe we're both kind of off. I don't know,
Yeah. Was there something like that stuck out that you said that like especially sticks with you as, hey, that's not how I feel. That's not how I want to represent myself. That's not what I want people to. Was there like, I listened to the episode, but I don't remember, like a quote of what.
I don't either. And that's, and that speaks to one of the problems that I would like to address, which is I'm too busy. But before we get to that, it was more that I didn't really understand exactly what he was talking about, because the way he framed it, I feel like he kind of downplayed it, and he's like, oh yeah, way down the list, it's like hashtag well people. And I'm like, okay, what is that? I don't really know, but I don't remember exactly where I was at in that day, but like when I hopped on that episode with him, I didn't even know his name. Someone sent me an email and they were like, I hope you would vet your, people better than that, and like, no, and and be more prepared. And that's where like, I agree. And I think that's part of where I started to have some of my own like concerns and doubts as to like, what am I actually doing here with Bikes or Death? Because I think, a lot of times I got a kid in the next room, and they're, y'all don't hear it because it gets edited out, but a kid pops in halfway through, we're just in the middle of something, and then we pick back up, and then, it throws things off. And, I don't want to come off like I'm coming up with excuses, but there's a lot going on with one. I'm just so insanely busy. I'm pulled in so many directions. I'm just like hanging on by a thread, you know what I'm saying? And like, and that's not good, and that's not sustainable. And I think this was an example of me being spread too thin on one layer. I don't want to make say, oh, make excuses, but I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. Is I think I've come to terms with the fact that I am in a unhealthy relationship with bikes or death, and that's okay. But I need to figure out how to make it a healthier relationship, because I should go into episodes a little bit more prepared and, not be so stressed out and so frazzled and other things that, that maybe I say things that I don't mean. Maybe I'm just so stressed out that I'm just, my brain's like a mess, and it is, yeah. What else? I gotta.
No, that's reasonable. I think a lot of people can relate to that, to feeling spread thin and that making it more difficult. It's easy when you look from the outside to see you as bikes or death and think, well, that's what this guy's doing all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they don't see you doing your regular job or taking care of 2 kids or, whatever else you have to do, like laundry and whatever the rest of humans do to just get through the day. You know what I mean? They don't see that, so they just ignore it and think you're just out there every day doing bikes or death.
Yeah, I get that. And it's a weird thing because I've tried hard not to make this about me. And I mean, partly I think that I'm on a journey myself. I know, I don't know, man. I don't think I'm the guy to be like up here telling people how to live their lives per se. I think that, cycling in the outdoors has been like one of the greatest values in my life personally. But outside of that, I'm twice divorced and a high school dropout and went to jail 6 times and, was in a cult for a long time. And, and even oddly enough, I was thinking about it and, being in a cult, you're used to just being a yes person. And I mean, to take this one step further, outside of that conversation that happened, my buddy Ryan and I, we talk about this specifically about, it's something that I work on of not just agreeing all the time, because I am a very agreeable and like get along guy kind of. And I think it might just come from being raised so strict and where you just like believe God and believe all these people in your lives without question. You just nod your head and go along. And I've did that for 30 plus years of my life. And I think that, again, I'm evolving, a lot, and I'm not even close to a finished where I would like to be, and so that's part of why I don't hopefully like sit up and like, preach and say, oh, you should do this and you should do that and you should do that, because on many levels, I'm looking to like learn from other people and like, how can I like learn to, I don't know, anything. I'm open to learn anything from anyone. So,
yeah, I don't know if you can address like specifically, because I don't know what the episode left people thinking. You know what I mean? That's what I'm not sure of. I knew sort of who you were. For the people out there who are thinking, well, this is what Patrick said, it made me believe whatever it is they believe, that you're fat phobic, or I don't know what they're thinking. You know what I mean? That you think it's okay to make fun of somebody based on their appearance. What do you say like directly to that?
Essentially, he said something along the lines, and I don't know exactly what people are, but this is what bothered me the most, and hopefully I think maybe we're on the same page. He said something along the lines of, people got all upset because I use this hashtag whale people, and I was just being funny, and there's a bunch of other hashtags and blah blah blah, all this kind of stuff. And he's like, I reject that people can't express their opinions, something along those lines. And I picked it up and I'm like, me too. We can't just we can, but I don't like to just quickly make a rash judgment, on something like super quick. And I think that's kind of the spin I was taking with it, was like, yeah, we can't just see something online and just like attack somebody or whatever. But I really came across as supporting his position, which I don't think I fully understood exactly what he was even talking about, because again, I went into this stupid thing. I didn't read any of his fucking hashtags. I've never heard of the hashtag whale people before. I did it. I Googled it. It's just people who like whales. But really, there's not a single fat person. I don't know, but the weird thing is I think he went on to like, I think he was kind of defending, his right to say that. And I think, that's where I would have liked to push back, because earlier in the conversation, he and I were talking about the exact same thing, what I mentioned earlier about, her judging y'all because of, the way you look and then acting out and then vice versa. And we're both like on the same wavelength that that's not okay, and we need to get past that. And so I think if we could have just talked about it and said, well, let's look at this from a different lens, I think the conversation could have gone a different way. And that's where I feel like to bring it full circle and hopefully answer your question, is that exact segment right there is a part where I wish I could go back. And I think being better prepared, I should have read all of his fucking hashtags and, did a little bit more research. So I had a better context for what we were actually talking about in that moment, Yeah.
Yeah. And this doesn't have to be part of this particular podcast, but I would have helped that lady out of the trap. You know what I mean? I would have. It's the hardest thing to do, to help people who try to murder you. I get that. But man, it's also an opportunity to show, hey, we're real people. We'll help you out. We'll push your truck back up. We'll help you get out. And now you have a better opinion of cyclists than us just making fun of you on the internet. Like, it just it builds on that same animosity. You know what I mean? She's going to hate cyclists forever.
Oh yeah. I agree with that 1,000%. Now, did you listen to the whole episode? Because we talked about that part specifically.
Yeah, I thought I did. I may not have been. I was doing dishes, or may not.
Again, I know you got 2 kids. So for people who don't know, Matt's much like me, stay-at-home dad with 2 kids. Our daughters are close in age and stuff, actually. And but that was what I wanted to hear. That was actually I brought him on. I mean, I do like the instant karma of it. No one got hurt, So I mean, fine. It was a funny image. I don't like some of the stuff that got attached to it, but anyway, I wanted to hear the story. Me, I wanted to like, okay, what actually happened? Were you guys being assholes? Were there, what was it? And so he went through the whole thing, and he said, the first thing that I did was I'm WOOFer, WOOFA certified, wilderness outdoor first aid. So, he like surveyed the situation, and he offered assistance, and all she did was yell at him and yell profanities and that kind of stuff. And, I shared a story where, I had been, I was like 16, but this redneck, I was, in the back of a truck, we were all drinking, and he, flipped it was a Dodge, and he flipped it, and, everybody was fine, but he got out and he got his shotgun out and just started blasting shells, and that is kind of a tenuous situation, with that. And I agree with what you're saying, but you have somebody also who you don't know, who's very, very elevated and just, had an aggressive act towards you. And so I would side with him as long as what he's saying is true. And I've had other people, that were there, text me and kind of tell me their side of the story. And it sounds like, they checked on him. They made sure that they didn't need help. They actually talked about helping to roll over their vehicle, but the whole time they were just,
yelling profanities,
and upset. So yeah.
No, I'm not trying to pick on Nickel at all. But,
no, I'm really glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up, because I want an opportunity to kind of, again, he's not here. And I don't know the guy. Like I said, I didn't even know his name before we hopped on. But I think there was actually a lot of really good, productive things that we talked about in terms of our relationship with vehicles. And I think that it's even sparked a greater debate about, an extension of that to online, and not just how we behave on the roads and represent cyclists, but let's take that online too. And I love to have fun, and I love to have jokes. And I mean, anybody listen to my podcast, I laugh probably too much, but it's not funny to make fun of other people. That's where it's not funny. It's not cool. It's not interesting. It doesn't build anybody up. It doesn't make a difference. Like what's the point, And so, I said things.
No, that's all right. I did want to start though. I have some notes. I have notes here. I took notes. Highlighter. I wanted to give a shout out. Can I do a shout out to start the show to JD Bad Ankle? I don't know what that means. Somebody on Instagram.
Okay.
But he said, started from the bottom bracket. Now we're here. It's a Drake. Just feeling the flow. You know what I mean? Started from the bottom bracket. Now we're here.
Started at the bottom bracket. Now I'm at the top. Y'all better watch out because I'm never going to stop. How did I get here? I never know. But you know what? It don't matter because I'm just going to let it flow. Single track all day, up, away. I don't know. It's gone.
we had Whoopi Goldberg mentioned already, and a little bit of rap from Patrick.
Boop, 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 boop. Freestyle.
Killer start.
Freestyle. I actually, I actually wrote down some real lyrics to that because, I might actually, that was a good line
the Drake song.
Yeah. I started from the bottom bracket. Now I'm at the top. That's like, to me, that's like a springboard to, write a little something.
It is. And it's a good way to start your bike maintenance. Spring maintenance coming up. You got the winter blues. Start at the bottom bracket and work your way up.
There you go.
Take care of all those creaks. Grease the whatever you have.
And whatever you have. Entertainment and knowledge together. That's bikes or death. Hopefully.
Is that what it is? Because one of the questions was somebody that's not a listener. He's like, I don't listen to podcasts. I don't listen to your show. I don't know how he knew that you were even doing this, but sell this guy on the podcast. What would you say? He's like, sell me on the podcast. What episode should I listen to? Why is this valuable for anybody?
I think the one I just released, 104 with Ezra, Ben, and Stephanie, that was a fun episode. And I got a message from someone today who's like, I've never liked podcasts, but I listened to that one and it was awesome, and I found myself just listening. When I edited that, there was only one edit on the whole thing. I say all the time that I don't know why people listen exactly, but I hope that they listen because of what I referenced earlier, is that I hope I'm coming from this from a very authentic place. And I don't share, all of the fucking crazy personal drama and stuff that's going on behind the scenes. But, what I do share and the conversations that I have and the interactions, are genuine. I've been told that what I'm able to do is capture people's like true essence pretty well. And even past guests will tell me that, they felt at ease or, they had fun or whatever. And to me, that's really cool. Like I think, I have thought about it, and I think that it's because I try not to have a big ego. I've been wrong a lot in my life, so it's very easy to not have a big ego. It's like, oh, I know I'm right this time. No, anyway. So like, yeah, I think hopefully people can relate to that. I often say on the podcast that I feel like the world is starved for authenticity, and I refuse to not be authentic. It's really a trap. If I had to every single week pretend to be somebody and put on an act and a show, it's already hard enough as it is, but to like, pretend, I can't, it's not me. So yeah.
I do like that. And as somebody who listens, I guess I would add, what I like about the show is you interview Lael, which I appreciate. It's fun to hear from Lael and from John Watson and all the sort of the bigger names, but you also talk to, what was it, Alicia Danes? Is that her last name? Danes?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. People like that who are like in cycling and have cycled their whole lives and have sort of a different perspective on it. And just like little windows of cycling culture that we don't always get to see about and hear about.
Yeah.
And that's cool. I got to be on the show. You know what I mean? I'm not anybody. And
you're becoming famous. It's probably because you were on the show and now you're becoming, probably has more to do with John Watson.
Could be. But I like that part of it, that you're not just chasing big names. You know what I mean? You're not just, I want to interview Tom Ritchie and, you know, the biggest names in cycling. You'll just interview anybody you're interested in. And I think that's a unique take, I think, on the show.
Yeah, you're probably right. I don't look at it as a unique take because it's what I want to do. Another thing that maybe is appealing to people is I'm just a regular guy coming at it from a regular guy's perspective, pretty new to the sport and have no business talking to a lot of people I talk to. But, you know, I think that, 95, 98% of the listening audience is more related to Alicia or Hannah Simmons, who was also on that episode with her, or the one I just did with Ben, Ezra, and Stephanie, or, you know, countless others. And you're not wrong because, hey, we surveyed our listeners and they told us one thing that people said over and over and over was some of their favorite episodes have been just talking to people who ride bikes. And that's always been the intention and the thing from the beginning. I like people. I don't care how many Instagram followers you have. Doesn't matter. You know, I've talked to Chris Picard with 3.7 million, and I've talked to, you know, people with no Instagram and couldn't give a fucking shit about Instagram and or whatever metric you want to use. I'm just saying Instagram, but you know, it's a metric, and that's silly. And I just like people, and I think that that's something that I want to. This whole, like, you know, last week of reflection. I want to, something I've been thinking about is that I want to make sure that I'm still pursuing the interviews and stuff that I want to, you know, and because it's become a business, you know, so there's deadlines and there's contracts and there's all this stuff that I've got to, you know, uphold my end of the bargain. And so I've got to have content, and, you know, it puts a little pressure on it. So it's really, you know, I'm in a growth, I'm growing, you know, and growing can be messy. I'm figuring it out as I go, you know, but I think it's going to be very important that I stay true to like those roots and I don't just start trying to chase the biggest names and make it all about, you know, that, you know, for sure. All right. Have we sold them?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
No,
I think that was good.
He's sold. Well, he's got to listen. You got to do all that stuff, mister, and report back and let me know. I'd be curious. I'm curious.
I would be too. I have his name written down so we can ask him later. There were a lot of questions about who you were going to interview. That was like, are you going to come to this event, Mid-South or whatever it was? And are you going to interview this person? Who are you going to interview next? Will you come to Australia? Will you come to wherever? There were lots of those questions too. That was like a whole series of where's the podcast going? Do you have a plan? There was a lot of that.
No, I don't have a plan.
Good.
I really, you know, a lot of times I'll record a podcast on a Monday and release it on a Wednesday. I mean, we're just, you know, it's hard putting out one a week, especially, you know, if you're going to talk for 3 hours or 2 hours. I mean, it's just a lot. So the big factor there is, yeah, man, I'm ready. I'm ready, willing, and able. Oh, wait, no, I'm ready and willing. I don't have the money is what it comes down to, which is the ability. And so, I mean, what the podcast started as was when I went on a bike trip I would find somebody in the area that looked like a cool person to interview, and I would interview them. And sometimes I do people locally or whoever is coming through town. But, you know, it's grown into this whole thing where, you know, a lot of people, like you said, we got a shit ton of questions of where will you come here and da-da-da-da. That is a little sliver of look into what it's like in my inbox. And, you know, people that are interested in riding with me or inviting me to this or wanting me to come there or wanting me to interview this person. And it's so amazing. It's crazy, but it's really flattering. But I'm just like one guy and I'm still trying to manage all those other things. And my inbox is like death. So to all you people, I will answer how to best answer this question. I think, you know, for context, with my divorce custody, I have every other weekend, I have about a 4.5-5 day window where I can do something, you know, a trip. And I built that in intentionally so that I can do podcasting trips and stuff like that. And so like that's there, but a lot of places that are farther away, you got to fly to, and it really just comes down to money. I don't have any money. I'm negative money.
Yeah.
and you know, you were, you know, to bring, you know, to talk to people. I mean, I'm an open guy. Like, when I went to Las Cruces and covered and produced podcasts about the Danger Bird and New Mexico Bikepacking Summit, that was because you petitioned your city to hire me to come and cover that event. I hope you're okay with me saying that.
Oh yeah, no, it was visit Hillary at Visit Las Cruces was like on it, and she was the one that made that happen.
Yeah, so I mean that's the only way I can do that. I don't have the money to do it. It's and I hate that, you know. I want to be able to go to all the places. Do I want to go to Australia? Fuck yes. Do I want to go to Europe? Hell yes. Do I want to go to Minnesota or Oregon or anywhere? I love to travel. Y'all know me. I love adventure. I love riding my bikes and I love meeting people. And this is really exciting. And part of what I want to do with Bikes for Death is focus on the community aspect of it, because I do my talking about the vision of the podcast would be to create this online community that I know is out there. And we talk online and stuff, but yeah, let's find more ways to connect and to go ride bikes and hang out and do all that kind of stuff. I want to do that, you know, but I've got another fucking job and bills and kids and stuff. And so, you know, it's just, again, I'm in a kind of messy growth phase of the process, I think.
Are there people out there who say, will you interview me? Can I be on the podcast? Or is that
multiple day?
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I have bribes, people name dropping is extremely common, you know, so-and-so said, you know, all this and yeah, a lot of it, man. It's a lot. And the thing is part of the thing that's hard about this for me is I've never been in a situation where the demand for my time and attention is far outweighed by my ability to provide it. And I am a communicative person. I do, you know, I'm not someone who just ghosts you on text and Instagram, but you know, now I am that person. I am that person that I know I remembered one today where I think it was bicycling.com, I think, that sent me, it was a writer for them and they wanted to do an article on doing a century ride and, you know, how that could change your life and stuff like that. And I agreed to it. And then I completely forgot and it didn't happen. And now I'm an asshole. That's an asshole thing, but there's too many of them and things fall through the cracks. And I really am sorry, publicly, but I would need I need an assistant or something to read all of them. And that sounds really braggadocious or something, but egotistical. It's just numbers.
Just the fact of it.
Just numbers.
Yeah, it's just a fact. Yeah, that it is. I guess I would say to those people who want to be on the show, they must see value in it. Like I saw value in having you come and cover the Danger Bird and be here for that event. So my next logical step was, if there's value in it, Patrick needs to be compensated. And I couldn't do that myself, you know what I mean? So I found a way to make that happen. It seems pretty easy. Instead of just saying, hey, I know somebody, or I know this, or, you know, you want me on your show for this reason, just pay the guy and he'll come do it and be real happy about it.
I agree. No, I mean, I appreciate that perspective. And, you know, these are the interesting conversations and flip sides of things that I'm just on one side of the microphone and there's just one of me and I have no idea how it's actually received. You're not getting, you know, kind of that instant feedback. But oftentimes I just feel like I'm a preacher begging for money, you know, or whatever. But, you know, it's, if you see value in it, I think that's a good way to like look at it, you know, is the way I operate the podcast is, you know, my life is extremely hectic. And so, you know, again, like podcasts will happen just kind of on the fly. We don't have a long schedule or anything. And it's just like, oh, I'm on Instagram, I see someone's riding through or see something cool that happened in bikepacking news or whatever. And I just like, hey, yeah, let's chat about that. That'd be cool. Or, oh, I'm going to this place. Like, you know, so I'm kind of like, I don't know. I'm just pursuing the things that I find interesting and that are within my ability. That's what it is. You know, the things that interest me and are within my personal ability to make it happen. And, you know, with everything going on, and there's a lot of things that I would like to do that I'm just not able to do. But yeah, man, if people see value and would like to get together, man, I'll talk to anybody. I'll stick a microphone in anybody's face.
That sounds a little bit like an NPR pitch, what I said. If you see value in this for less than the price of a cup of coffee a day, you can support one podcaster.
I might run that ad. In the arms of angels, fly away with me. Yeah, dude.
Hitting all the hits tonight.
Dude, I'm going there. Why not? You only get one life. What is that, buddy?
Cheers. It's an Austrian apple soda.
Nice. Yeah, I hope I don't want to be the person that makes you break your sobriety. That's not going to make me feel better.
not going to happen.
Good.
All right.
Your beard's looking. And your hair is looking nice too.
There's only one person that's ever liked my beard or my hair, and my wife puts up with it. She didn't care because I was like this when we met. But my dermatologist finally said, "Hey, keep the beard, keep the hair. You're doing yourself a lot of favors." So
yeah.
He didn't say it looks good. You know what I mean? He didn't say, "Oh, you look good."
No, there's a lot of practical benefits. You know, sun, wind, warmth in the winter.
Yeah, we're mammals. I'm a big fan of body hair. Let it go. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your time on that shit.
I actually need to ask you a question about your body hair. Do you get dandruff?
Oh yeah, I do.
Have you found a way to manage it? Dude,
no,
that's just driving me. Huh?
I just put up with it. It's dry as shit here. You know what I mean? So your skin gets dry. There's some guys at the farmer's market who sell beard oil or some sort of beard supplement. I don't know exactly what it is. And they look at me every time I walk by. They look at me like, "Oh, this is our customer. This is our guy right here." They see my dry beard. I'm scratching it like an animal.
Yeah.
And then I can't do it. I have a beard because I don't want to spend a bunch of time not having a beard.
Yeah. It's such a paradox. So I'm telling you, this is very topical for me because just this past week, my dandruff has gotten crazy. And so I started reading all these articles and, you know, all these beard care articles. And they're like, wash your face twice a day, use this, use that, do. You got to trim it this way. And I'm like you, I'm like, I didn't grow a fucking burly ass beard to like spend more time than I ever have shaving keeping up with it. This is just ridiculous. And the money. You're right. The money too. It's more money. You go from a razor blade and a little shaving cream to 37 different products and a whole regimen of facial care. And that was the first time I got a real glimpse into, I think, what it's like to be a woman, or at least some women who bother themselves with these kinds of things. I've kind of heard about, like you hear them talking about it, but this is the first time I'm like, okay, I need to moisturize. I need to, wash my face twice a day. So, all right, well, that's good to know, man. I think I'm just going to have to let it go.
Growing a beard gave you an insight into what it's like to be a woman.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It
made me appreciate all. Yeah, because I've been married to a few of them, at least two. And, you hear things. But now I do think I have a little bit of a peak, because I've never gone on and read an article about skincare or any of this. Why would I, So.
Yeah, being an adult is kind of bullshit for sure. You got to brush your teeth too. Who knew that? You got to brush your teeth twice a day. A day.
Wait, this is new information.
Not just the front ones. You got to get the back. You got to get the back ones. The Skittles clogged back in there from your last trip.
Or I'm just gonna let mine fall out. I think it's fine.
It's lighter.
I'll go lightweight.
Yeah, birds don't have teeth. People think they fly because they have feathers and wings. They also don't have teeth, and that's a significant weight savings. I think birds with teeth wouldn't be able to fly.
Now we're spreading misinformation on the Bikes or Death podcast.
I'm a wildlife biologist. You can trust me. What were we talking about?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, we were selling the guy on the podcast. I think we sold him.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I think we did too.
Yeah.
I'm sold. There was a good question from Chamois Butter.
Okay.
Which obviously raises the immediate question: do you use chamois cream in a chamois?
I actually use theirs.
Do you?
Yeah. I full disclosure, I reached out to them recently and expressed an interest in, a potential sponsorship, partnership, whatever, because more body hair talk or body talk. Again, getting old sucks. And for the first time in my life, I have started experiencing chafing. I've never had the ball chafing before. This is the first time. I'm 42 years old. And it probably started about, a year ago. But I've been having to manage that. And the best way I found to do it is just to put on, that chamois cream and keep everything kind of loose. I don't love it, to be honest with you. I don't love it putting it on. I'd rather not have it on. But chafing is super painful. And I really don't like that. It puts you off the bike. And it makes you scared. It made me scared to ride. I'm like, fuck, man. Is that going to happen again?
Yes.
Maybe I'm just a wuss, but I didn't like it. So, yeah.
You don't like chafing on your balls, huh? That's not something you're into.
No.
So you hit up Chamois Butter and you said, hey, I've been putting your stuff on my testicles and around my anus. What do you say we do a little deal?
Let you give me money. And I tell people to rub your shit on their junk. How does that sound? Boom, Matt. Now you're a podcaster.
They did have a good question, though.
Okay.
They wanted to know the most overrated and underrated part of yourself, which that's a big question, of you yourself. And then the secondary one, which is much easier to handle, is the most overrated and underrated part of bikes or your bike. Or sort of biking culture.
Oh my gosh. I'm not smart enough.
Their question a little there. We can take it one part at a time. You want to do the bike part first? Go ahead.
No, you're the host. What are we doing?
I'm Bronco Tryhard, and I'm the host of this podcast. The most overrated part of biking, or bikes. What's the thing that's just overblown? Is there one?
Yeah. Oh, there's lots of them. I mean, it certainly would depend on the sector of cycling that we're talking about and all manner of things. But, you know, from my perspective and the way I ride bikes and stuff, you know, and the need for like super high end, ultra lightweight XYZ parts that are exorbitantly expensive, I feel like are kind of overrated for me, you know, and like where I look around, I feel like, I don't know, man. I don't know where most people live and what most people's lives are like, but you know, most people I feel like when I see in my life or, you know, out in, you know, I think people are like, I don't know, don't need to spend $5,000 on a drivetrain or whatever, you know. I don't think that is very relevant to most people. So that's one off the top of my head.
Expensive
overrated.
bike parts, overrated.
Yeah, I mean, down. I mean, if you can afford it, you're a millionaire, whatever. But I think, you know, this obsessing about all these bike parts. I've got some like 1998, you know, XT derailleur on my bike right now that's about to go to Big Bend. I've had it for I don't know how long. It's fine, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I like fancy, you know, it's no.
You're like, never mind. I take it back. I like fancy bike parts.
I don't. I think there's a line there because what I'm really looking for is a balance between, you know, function and cost. You know, what are you getting for your money? And, you know, I think most people know I'm looking for a durable lifetime bike, a steel bike, a titanium bike. If I was a rich man, listen, I would have a gravel machine that was like carbon and fast and stuff. But, you know, so again, I'm only talking from my perspective, and from my perspective as a poor guy, I look for a bike that will last, that I don't have to worry about, and I'll put parts for my garage that are, you know, who knows how old, and I'll throw them on until they break, and then I'll get, you know, and that's fine. So, and I think that's probably how more people could approach bikes. And like, this is probably going way too far, but so I know some people did want me to talk more about gear, so some people will be happy about this, but like, as a person who, you know, one, doesn't have a lot of money, and two, I try to be very frugal with the money that I do have, I've gone through a lot of different iterations of, you know, what is the right approach to purchasing, you know, a bike. And I've landed on, again, you know, lifetime bikes. And I would consider my Salsa Fargo that I bought for $950, you know, fully rigid bike. That's a bike that I can and will own forever at $950. You know, I also have a Chumba Stella tie that I'm just lucky and I got a good deal. I think, you know, because of the podcast, I have a good relationship with them, and they, you know, gave me a good deal on it. But, you know, that's a bike that I'll have forever. And, you know, the brakes on there are shitty. I got BB7 mechanicals. I've got an Origin 8 seat post, you know, I don't know. But then there's also some nice parts on there too. So.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And the place that I'd like spending more money, I don't have a lot of money to just blow on whatever I want. But when I do spend a lot of money, it's because I like the person or people making that, like handmade products. You know what I mean? Like I'm spending quite a bit for that triplane fork from Shell, but I like it. You know what I mean? Shell and Erica are great people. It feels different giving them money than it does giving money to Trek or some billion-dollar corporation. You know what I mean? So I feel better about it.
Yeah.
It's still expensive, but
here's my argument, Matt. One, it has more value. It has more value to you because of the things that you just mentioned. It has more value. You know, it's making a difference to the person you bought it from. And then on an open market, a bike like that is going to have more value than, you know, a specialized XYZ bike. You know, you put that on a flood of bikes and there's like, you know, 10 of them. You just pick the color you want. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I agree. I think that's a smarter way and a more fun way to approach cycling. And that's just our perspective. There's lots of flavors of the rainbow.
The second half of this question from Chamois Butter was underrated. What's the underrated part of cycling?
Yeah, I did hit on like specifically bikes, but maybe not anything about like cycling overall or whatever. Underrated.
That's okay.
Okay. Well, my answer to the underrated is going slow. I think that is the most underrated part of cycling, any part of cycling. You hear so much about going fast and the FKT and all this stuff, but I purposely will go out, and if I'm riding too fast, I'll be like, why are you in a fucking hurry? Slow down.
Yeah.
My life is so busy and so crazy and all this stuff that, again, just me, that I don't know, man. I just really, and not all, I like to, stretch my legs too. So I think in all things, there's happiness and balance and moderation, but again, you don't hear people talking about the value of like really slowing down. And as a hiker, I know you definitely enjoy slowing down.
Yeah. 3 miles an hour is like pretty sweet pace to see the landscape.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty great. It really, I don't know. It just, I find that, or I found for myself in the past that, and it still happens, where for some reason I get on my bike and I feel this inclination, and maybe it's the culture, where I feel this need to smash it. And I'm like, why? I'm like, stop, just relax. And it depends on the mood I'm in. Sometimes I just want to relax and chill out and, vibe off whatever. Or sometimes I just want to like go hard and block out my mind in that way, or whatever, it's like, I'm not, different approaches. So yeah, that's my answer.
Going slow. I like it. Yeah. I like
going slow.
I just put a coaster brake on my Krampus.
Dude, that's sick.
So yeah, so I do a lap of the local mountain right by my house, 4.5 miles. And my times, obviously with the coaster brake, are way slower than they would be with disc brakes. They're just slower. I can't corner as fast. I can't descend as quickly. And I'm having way more fun than I've ever had. You know what I mean? Right. So I am going slower. And if you look at what I'm doing on Strava, I'm not on Strava, but if you could, you would see, oh, he's going slower. Something's wrong with him, or what, people wouldn't say he's doing better. And I feel like I'm having more fun and succeeding at bikes better than I have been in the past.
Yeah.
By going slower.
I mean, that echoes the way I feel about single speed, which is, I guess I've been on single speed for a year and a half or 2 years, but it still feels kind of new. But yeah, it takes speed out of the equation in many ways. It's unless you can hike faster or something. Speed is just irrelevant. You're just pedaling your bike, and that probably actually speaks to something that helped me understand the value of going slow and just be like, oh, okay, yeah, this is totally chill. You're not worrying about shifting. You don't feel any pressure to shift, which is weird, but you're like, oh, I got to get that next gear. I can push a couple more whites up this hill. I can do it, man. But if you got a single speed, you're just like, oh, I'm spinning out or whatever. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you just kind of go with the flow of the ride. And if it's slow for part of it, because you're flat and your gear is wrong, then you go slow.
There you go.
And that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Single Speed, by the way. It's brought to you by One Gear. That's the sponsor.
One Gear to rule them all. Single Speed. Each your Single Speed area.
Somebody did ask, they had a gear question. What's your favorite single speed cog? I think somebody asked that. Pretty sure. Do you have a favorite cog?
I have an admission to make before I answer that question. Also, Matt, did you write your notes on the back of your daughter's artwork?
Yes, I did.
Cat and Dot.
They drew their designs for cake pops that they made at Christmas with my grandma, or my mom and their grandma.
Nice.
And I thought, well, Christmas is over. We made the cake pops.
Beautiful. I love it. Well, you're recycling. You're recycling. All right. What was the question? I'm sorry.
Your favorite cog.
Oh, okay.
Maybe they meant size. I don't know if they meant size or they meant maker.
Yeah.
You can answer
okay,
both.
I want to do my my admission first because this is kind of embarrassing, but it's also telling. For a couple years now, I've thought that I had an 11-46 gear ratio in back. And I just found out like a month ago, I've had 11-42 this whole time.
Nice.
For like 2 years, I've been saying it on the podcast. I'm like, oh yeah, I read this. And I'm riding with people and I'm like, why am I smashing gears and you're, like, I'm like, and it finally clicked. I'm like, oh, I'm not in the gears that I thought I was in. And so now I have, I think, an 11-50, which we're taking a big bend. I got to leave at like 5:30 tomorrow morning. See how it is to have actually some gears back there. But so to answer this question, I don't even know exactly what I have. I think I have a 32-17 on my Fargo. I have a chain tensioner, which is fucking sweet. I've had some people ask me about it. It's called Godspeed, which is the reason why I got it. And it's cool. And yeah.
And who is it? A Surly cog? Is that who makes the cog? Do you know?
I don't know.
The one with the little circular holes in it.
Oh, are you talking about the tensioner or the
cog itself? The cog
no,
itself.
I don't
know what they asked. I might not have even written it down.
It might be a wolf tooth.
Okay.
I don't know.
Stuff.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I only care if it works, like, again, I go into my parts. I'm like, oh, this gear isn't whatever. So I'll pick out a different one. I don't look at it to be like, oh, is this the Wolf Tooth X390 or whatever? I just like,
yeah, just put it on there and go.
Dude, I sound whatever, but again, it really does come back to how fucking busy I am. I don't have time. I'm just like, oh, I got to go on a bike ride, and fucking scramble to get it done. When we get off here today, I'm going to pack till 2:00 in the morning and then get up at 5:30 to drive to Big Bend because I haven't fucking done shit. So
yeah.
It's just craziness.
Okay. So you're packing up. Hopped Birder. Do you know Hopped Birder from Instagram?
Oh, yeah.
Post those badass bird pictures from New York.
Dude, I think it's Peter. And he told me the other day that I was one of the first Instagram followers in the bike community to follow him. And I took that as a great compliment.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. He said I might have been the first. What?
I think I was in there before you.
Were you? Okay. Well,
I really like birds. No, I don't care.
No, let's just open it up real quick and see. No, there is a high.
But he was asking about pre-trip
go.
checklists and routines, and what do you do before a trip to make sure you have your shit in order? Do you eat a meal like you're going out in the backcountry? Do you eat like a big meal of turkey tetrazzini or whatever every time before you go?
Oh, so some kind of like a tradition that I do.
Yeah, and just sort of like how you prepare for a trip. It sounds like you're just going to drink some beers and just like walk back and forth in your garage until 2 a.m. You don't have a list and an Excel spreadsheet.
No.
Yeah, no.
I've done it enough. I mean, it is what it is. What I'll probably do, I have got my bike. I changed out the fork, the front suspension fork that I put on for Las Cruces. I took that off. I put my rigid back on, but I kept the curvy bars because one, I don't really need it. And two, we're actually doing bike rafting on this trip. And I didn't want the suspension getting wet and all that. So I thought that would be a little bit better. But the bike is pretty much set up. The Mr. Fusion is on there. The Roggeist thing is on the front. The bike is kind of ready. So now what I'll do is I'll basically, anything that I need, I'll throw in a Tupperware and I'll pack it whenever I get there that night and probably finish up in the morning before we roll out. So, I know what I need. I'll throw it all in and I'll put it all together when I get there. And Yeah. That's how I'm doing this one. Any pre-trip rituals? No, just panic because I'm out of shape at this point and try to like do some last minute, rides to like get in, like remind my body like, oh, you can get up from behind the computer and actually go outside. It's okay.
Somebody else asked if you're on a ride. I thought this was, see what you think. If you're on a ride, you're riding down the trail, and you have to immediately eliminate either your bars or your saddle. They're just gone. They fade away. They blink twice like a video game and they're gone. Which would you prefer?
Saddle,
yeah. That seems pretty easy.
1,000%. 1,000%. Yeah. Now, here's a different question. I've had this happen. Maybe see if this has happened to you, Matt. Have you ever had a seal break on your tire or have a tire completely blow out? But I've had this happen to me where my front tire, I was on pavement, went completely exploded, and I was instantly on pavement. And luckily, I was on pedal flats, and I caught myself. But the question would be, if you're going down some gnarly whatever, you want your front. Well, I guess it's rear tire. That one's easy too. I don't know. Yeah. You don't want your front going out.
And you don't want your bars to disappear.
No. No. But people have dropper posts. I mean, you're going down single track. People want to drop that shit out of the way anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Keep your handlebars on then.
I will.
check that stem bolts tonight. How about what was your most epic ride or your longest ride ever? Those could be different. Those could be totally different. Most epic ride ever.
You sound like Alex Trebek on Jeopardy. Is that who does Jeopardy?
I think he did. I think he's dead.
Yeah, until he died. And then
until he died.
Other people.
Now he's not doing it anymore.
Then he stopped. Man, epic ride. Ooh, there's been so many good ones. There's been epic moments. There's been epic rides. I gotta say, I mean, I feel like, I've had my most special moments out at Big Bend. I think you can probably relate as somebody who rides in the desert a lot. The desert doesn't fuck around. The desert is as real as it gets, I feel like. And it's a real, I mean, it could be a mirror into yourself. And I mean, it's just anything you want it to be. It's, it's you can see forever. You can see forever, and you'll have some of the most amazing experiences watching the sunrise and set and the night sky and just the whole thing, the magnitude of everything and how small you feel and how much appreciation you feel for the plants and the wildlife that occupy this arid and, remote and just rugged area. I mean, man, I go out there and it just zeroes back, it just puts everything back in place kind of. And so yeah. I don't think I could outline a specific one, but for me, that region, I think other people have similar experiences probably like that, hopefully, where there's just places that you go to that kind of unlock that for you.
Is that's your favorite place to ride? Like if you had a dream ride, is there someplace else you just really want to go that you haven't been?
No, I think somewhere. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of places sure. I would love to go.
But you'll always go back to Big Bend. It sounds like that's like a well that you're drawing from for your life, kind of.
Dude, I mean, so where I'm leaving tomorrow is my Big Bend birthday bash weekend. I do it every year. I think this will be the 4th year that we do it now. And it's important to me that I try to make it out there once a year, and yeah. I have many friends that feel similarly and we try to go together, so yeah, it's kind of our spot. I think, I mean, we don't have a lot in Texas. It is our crown jewel. no doubt it's 1.3 million acres. The Rio Grande, obviously is a defining factor, and the geology there is just it's one of the coolest geological formations on planet Earth, period. And that's just facts, not me saying that. They come there and study it. So it's a cool place, man. And we're lucky to. I mean, it's a 9-hour drive, but fuck, it's worth it, man.
So what's the top of the list for places you haven't been that you want to go ride?
I think, dude, fucking Northern California, Washington, somewhere up there, man. I'd love to go to Canada. I'd love to visit my boy in Canada. I'd love to do the Baja Divide. Would be super cool. I hear really good things about like Michigan. I get invited up there a lot. I haven't been up there. But I think, man, one thing that has Northern California, it's got to be like through, or what is it? Yosemite or Yellowstone? Fuck, I always get those.
Yosemite's in California.
Thank you, Yosemite. Yeah, I want to go experience that whole area. Hike it, bike it, whatever. Drive. I don't care. I just want to go. Yeah, that's a big bucket list item for me. So if there's anybody listening that wants to bring Bikes or Death to that area, I'm interested.
I'm sure somebody is. There's a lot of people in California.
Yeah. It's actually my number one market is California.
Is it?
California is my number one state, and Austin is my number one city. So that's interesting. Yeah.
What else what other metrics do you know? Like you got a breakdown on age or gender or...
Yeah, it's 80% men, 20% women. Definitely, I would love to keep growing the women's side of it. That's one thing that I've been pretty vocal about from the beginning. But to be honest with you, it's grown from like 17% to 20%. So we're growing. The age range is mostly 25 to 50, I believe.
Okay.
America's biggest. Canada's second, UK's third, Australia's fourth, and then I don't remember exactly where it goes from there. We hit 600,000 downloads today total, for the whole podcast. A big one. Sorry, I got lots of numbers.
No, you had them on right, ready to go. That's good.
No, I just fucking know them, man. This, I fucking, I'm trying to. If you're trying to like sell your business to somebody, companies want to know this stuff. So I know it. But a big one is recently I found out that Bikes or Death is in the top 0.5% of all podcasts in the entire world. Now that's pretty cool. But if you break down the numbers, it means I think we're about in the top, we're like out of 2.8 million podcasts, we're in the top 163,000, something like that.
Yeah, that's still solid. It sounds better the other way. It sounds better the other way.
Yeah, but I'm an honest guy. I could, I actually said that to somebody else. I'm like, it sounds way better when you say it the first time, and then you're like, okay, let's back it up though. But the podcast has been successful. Period. End of sentence. I could, when you asked me that question to meditate on it, and one thing I reflected on was I could walk away and be okay with it. I don't want to, but I can be proud and really pleased and everything. I mean, it's a real thing that has touched a lot of lives. It's reached all over the world. It's a thing, and I fucking did it, so I'm happy, like with all that. It's rare, and I'm okay. I try not to be too boastful, but at the same time, we like call ourselves out for doing things wrong. I think we should also acknowledge when we do things well and when we're proud of ourselves and stuff. And I could have never imagined this in a million years. It's so much fun, on many levels. A lot of it's hard, but what we're doing right now, this is a lot of fun. I really, really enjoy this, and brings a lot of value to my life.
It does. You do. You love what you're doing.
I do love it. Yeah. I appreciate that question because it really made me have to think about that, and maybe the relationship needs to change a little bit. But at least I know that it's also providing value to me, which is important in a healthy relationship.
It is. No, it is. Yeah, for sure. What do you have like an outline for what you want to do to try to get more women involved or more people of color? There are a lot of white dudes in bikepacking, just in sport and outdoors in general. You know what I mean? And that's something I've struggled with as I host an event, and I'm like, that was the one thing I looked out over the crowd at the Danger Bird. I'm like, well, these are just a lot of white dudes. Yeah. What can I do? Have you thought about that? I think about it a lot.
Yeah, I just
there's no easy answer. I wasn't trying to put you on the spot and say outline your plan. It's hard. It's hard because it's a big cultural thing. It's not just bikes. It's the whole culture and system we live in that has created these inequities, so it's
I have done stuff like I've we contribute 1% of all the money we make to the Bikepacking Roots BIPOC Adventure Grant Program. But that helps facilitate, and they get in applications and they review them. And when we had Allie Johnson on episode 98, we talked about, the first round of those recipients that went out, and we talked about some of those stories. And part of that whole initiative was, okay, what can we do? One, we can donate a little bit of money. Two, we can promote that cause and try to draw some awareness to it. And three, I have offered to, host an episode with many of them, a few of them, whoever, that's interested, and I've put that out there on the podcast and also off the podcast to Bikepacking Roots, specifically. And there's a lot of other organizations and there's a lot of people doing good things. And I think that there's a lot of things that I'm capable of doing. And again, on many levels of the podcast. And this is one of them, that is one thing that I've done specifically that I can say, we do this. This is, and they just had their first round of recipients that went on trips, and that episode was in December, and really I probably need to follow up with Allie and be like, hey, who do we got? But I've put that offer out to them, and that's kind of one weird thing about podcasting, and I'm a little bit reluctant to say this, and so we'll see where this goes on the podcasting editing floor, but one thing that I've run into behind the scenes is I have reached out to women and minorities who have turned me down, and on many occasions. And I don't know exactly why that is. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it's because I don't feel like they have a place, and maybe their opinion isn't as valid or whatever. I can't, say I don't have a look into that to like really draw a conclusion, but I do know that like guys are knocking down my door and, tripping over themselves to get on the podcast, and they're kind of gross sometimes about it, and I'm just like, I don't worry about that, but man, I have tried to get quite a few people on the podcast who have turned me down, both minorities and females, and I don't know why. So,
it sounds like you're just keep trying, and and at some point when you started, you're like, if I have an episode with a man, I want to have one with a woman, or you know what I mean. You trying to find a balance that way.
Yeah, and I think that's unrealistic. I'm glad you brought that up. I think that's unrealistic because of there is a it's not only a an image thing, it's a reality thing. You know, I mean, there are less, but we want to grow that. It's also the fastest growing sector, period, end of statement. So that's growing. Let's continue that segment. Let's continue that trend. Let's bring that into minorities and or whatever. Let's bring that into every single culture, society, person, place, everything, thing. Let's just do that. That's what I'm trying to do. And it's a big job. You're right. And it's gonna take a long take a long time, and I want to do better at that. I think that there's some opportunity. I'm excited to, I'm excited for some of those opportunities. I think we've done some stuff, and I think that we can do more. I can do more.
Yeah, I think we all can. Miles had a question. Miles Arbor. Do you know Miles Arbor?
Nope.
Have you heard of him?
No.
He asked if you were stranded on an island with Miles, you and Miles, which I know you've thought about.
Yeah.
I know you've thought about it. How many days would it be until you guys started holding hands? That's not what he asked. He asked.
The answer is 0 days. We would start on day 1.
0 days. Yeah, good. What he actually said was 10 items that you would like to have on that island.
Oh my gosh, that's too many. That's too many. Here,
well, I mean, some of them could be. I'd want like a chessboard. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I can knock off some. Like, his Gitalele. He definitely needs to bring that because he and I are both musical. We would. I mean, neither of us is good, but we both love to fucking make up stupid songs and sing and stuff. So that would be a must. We would have to bring our bikes. If there was a way. It's funny if there was a way to bring our cameras and they would we had solar power to charge them or something. I think we would both take pictures and be like, bro, look at this one. I think we would do that for 10 years. Look at this one I got, and then I think we need a machete and probably I know what we need. I can't remember what they're called. That, it's like a trail building tool, or it was first developed for fighting fires, and it was named after a fucking guy, but it's like a pick on one side and flat on the other, so if we
I do know. Yeah I can't think of the name.
I can't fucking think of it, man. It's
it starts with an M. It starts with an M, maybe.
Anyway, someone on the internet will tell us.
Yes, they will.
Anyway, but then we could build some trails. Yeah, kill some food, fishing line, fishing hook. I don't know. We're probably at 10.
That seems like 10.
And we're going to have to fucking make our own shelter. So we're not taking that shit. We're going to have to hunt, fish. Yeah.
It sounds kind of fun.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like Bear Grylls might call me after this episode and be like, so anyway, you and this Canadian want to get dropped off on an island, huh? Okay.
That guy's a joke, Bear Grylls.
Oh,
he just pees on his stuff. I remember him just peeing on everything.
He loves to pee on things.
I didn't watch it. It was just a decade ago, and he just was pissing on all his stuff.
I've liked Bear Grylls
rag on his head with piss on it.
Dude, you know what he's into in the bedroom. That's all I'm going to say.
He's in that tape with Donald Trump on the Russian pee tape. It's just Bear Grylls.
Yeah, he's like, Trump.
That's great. If they're into
That's good stuff.
That's great. Somebody asked about stretching. If you stretch.
No.
Easy, simple. What do you have any thoughts? Somebody said, do you have any thoughts on long rides? One recurring thought where you're on a long ride and it just hits you. I'm going to die, or whatever the thought is.
Huh. Interesting.
Is there something you or does your brain just kind of free form? Yeah,
I find that movement is really good for my thought. And so whenever I'm riding on my bike, I feel like my thoughts are better. I feel like it just kind of flows better, and there's a nicer synchronicity with everything I think that's happening. Yeah. So the only reoccurring thing that I can think of right off the top of my head is, again, just go slow. Is I'm always, if I'm I don't know if I like, just like, why are you hurrying, man? If you want to stop and look at something, or I don't know, ride up some silly hill, or jump off a rock, or ride through a sprinkler, or whatever it is, like, just, have a little bit of fun, like try to find the fun and the joy and the satisfaction in riding a bike, not just pounding out watts, and not just, and I'm kind of knocking it, but I've done it and I get it. And like, I do it too, kind of. And some people really, really, really value that and enjoy that. So yeah, this is just kind of the way, my approach.
Yeah. What do you think of this? So I sort of think the same thing. Everybody's thoughts, not mine and yours, but I think everybody's, when they're moving through the landscape, you're in a state that just things are easier. Your brain's working better, your body's working better. And I sort of think it's because for 200,000 years, that's what humans did.
Right.
It's only the last like 200 years where we had this different lifestyle, sedentary. And I'm like, that genetics and DNA is still in us.
Yeah.
And when we're not like tuned into it at all in our modern culture, it doesn't like support that sort of. And I think that's why we get so wound up, you know what I mean? And why it's easy to attack somebody on the internet. There's all this like underlying, just sort of human bullshit that we've added to the top, where we're not allowed to be sort of the animals that we are.
Yeah. Added to the top of already being starved of our most basic instincts.
Yeah.
We're shoved into houses and cubicles and cars. We're drowned out from the night sky, from all the light pollution. There's no semblance of a natural world in most cities that we live in. And we fucking wonder, why diabetes is on a rise. And I mean, I don't know. I don't want to go down the list. There's too many things.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm not like one of these people that says like, make Pangea great again. You know what I mean? Where I'm pining for the old days.
No. Yeah.
Because we've made advances. We treat each other better.
Yeah.
But I do think we're missing something that the outdoors.
But the conversation can be, I'm not saying go back to prehistoric times, obviously, and neither are you. It's more like we can do better in some areas, and also we can highlight the importance and the value and the opportunities available to you by going for a bike ride in the outdoors. And there's lots of ways to do that. You can do long trips, you can do short trips, you can do, rides. I'm on this little Slack group with some local dads like that take their kids bike riding and stuff. And, they're talking about doing a little kid camping trip in a park and just, ride 5 miles or whatever, I mean, it can be all those things, and all those are really, really valuable. And again, just finding some balance in life, and not to, take away all this great stuff that we have. But I think that there is a lot of opportunity to balance the scales more in the side of, more outdoor activity, more time spent with nature, more time riding your bike or walking around the neighborhood, or, more of that, and less screen time, less sitting behind a cubicle, and balance.
Yeah. What is Jared Foster? He has a catchy little line. Nature deficit disorder. He talks about that.
Oh, yeah,
it's
that's
probably
from
not
the
his.
book.
It's probably something.
Yeah, it's from the book "Last Child in the Woods" by Lou fucking something. Anyway,
Lou Alcindor.
Yes.
No, that's not right. That's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah, no, but fighting nature deficit disorder. It's a term that he coined in that book, and it's an excellent book. And it really, that book is very topical to our conversation, because it really talks about how we've progressed as a society, and what specifically has changed in our society and the way that we build cities and parks, the rules that we put on children. He looks at, the evolution of a child and their development in a rigid school system versus in like Switzerland, where they have schools where you just kind of like play outside all day and you're like, oh, what's this bug? And you're like, oh, that's a great question. This is a da 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 da. And then you eat it or whatever, and they look at those and news flash. But the kids that have free play, the kids that are allowed to fail, the kids that, bump their knee and understand pain and understand motor skills and learn these things at a young age are much more capable at making decisions, their bodies work better, all these things, it's an excellent book. And it's probably the most important book on this topic of, one, looking at what we've done as a society and how we've shifted raising our children, and how not only the way we're raising them, but why we're raising them different because of the infrastructure that we've built and all this crazy shit. And anyway, you want to do a book review? We can do that too. But
yeah, I'll put a link in the show notes to that book.
Yeah. Yeah. You're good at this.
No, I'm good. I'm real good. The other thing I was going to ask about, we were sort of talking about wilderness a little bit there. I was going to ask about what do you think about wilderness and like where we are with bikes in the wilderness and where they're not allowed, and sort of just generally the idea of wilderness, designated wilderness, and like what it means, what wilderness means to you with a little W, what that means to you.
Matt, I am going to flip that question to you, and now you answer it. So here's an important thing that, if anyone, where I live in Texas, wilderness is not a debate or a topic that's being discussed because we don't have wilderness to discuss, I mean, it's like, how many acres do you own? Oh, cool. Is it high fenced? How many deer are you raising? We're not, and not to say those are conversation I'm having, but as a Texas culture at large, it's mostly private land. There aren't all these debates over wilderness and grazing and all this stuff, but I know you are very aware and in tune to this kind of issue. So I'm actually more interested to hear your thoughts.
I mean, I guess the first thing that I hadn't realized or didn't appreciate as much as I do now is that it's all stolen land. And like the idea of wilderness itself is sort of, like it has this root in white supremacy. And I struggle with that because I had this relationship with wilderness and visiting what I thought was a wilderness for most of my younger life. So I'm sort of trying to get my head around that. It's indigenous land and it was cared for, and it wasn't just uninhabited, land that we as a country came upon and decided to save because we have goodness in our hearts. You know what I mean?
Well, it's because Jesus told us to, right?
Yeah, we like forcibly removed people and
forced religion and culture onto them.
And murdered him. I mean, so there's like that root of it that I don't want to set it aside, for to finish the rest of the question, but I don't know how to do that. Like the idea of land back and like giving land back. I'm very curious to know more about that, sort of the mechanics of it, but I sort of find that I'm open to that idea. It makes sense to me.
This is a foreign topic again. So when you say you're giving land back, you're saying giving, what land back to, I'm assuming, indigenous people, or is this such a young conversation? It's
for me, I'm totally uninformed. You know what I mean? I've looked at landback.org or whatever the website is and read some different things, but I'm not up to speed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's the idea, is the land was stolen from someone and they were forcibly removed. And now we go there, like to the Grand Canyon, and do whatever we want and celebrate. And they're not allowed to, still to this day, the Havasupai and Wallapai people aren't allowed to use the canyon like they've done for centuries. And that doesn't sit right with me, but I'm not as informed as I want to be on that. But the thing I talk about more recently that you're probably referring to is cattle in the wilderness and how we actually manage the wilderness.
I get what you're saying though. Like what you're about to say is kind of tinged with this uncertainty of this messy situation, and I zoom out, and that's the way I look at most things. Most things are messy. People are messy. I'm messy, I mean, and so I think I appreciate you being like, hey, I don't really know a lot, but I think it's good to talk about it and say, I think this is important. I don't know enough, but I'd like to know more. And that can be it, but you're at least, starting a conversation, and it's okay to not have all the answers. There's a lot of fucked up shit going on all around us. And I wish I had more answers for a lot of stuff. And I think that's one of them, I've personally been on a mission. I've read a lot of, not a lot, I've probably read 5 books about, the American Indian relationship, conflict, invasion, and I've tried to educate myself on it to some extent, but it's just a white man's perspective. All I can do is read a book, and it's someone written by white men. It's not like most things in life. There's not an easy answer, but I think it's important to be able to talk about it and just say, hey, we should talk more about it or figure something out or, anything,
Yeah. So, and I guess this is sort of related. I was drinking this Austrian soda here, apple soda.
Yeah.
And we got it because my wife and my kids recently got Austrian citizenship. And they had that opportunity because her grandfather fled Nazi Germany and the Holocaust. So as like a reparation, the country of Austria has now extended citizenship to all of the descendants of these Holocaust survivors or, people who perished in the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And that idea, the way that affected my family and how that simple thing, just extending the olive branch, so to speak, trying to make good for past wrongs. We really need to do that in this country. I think we do. We need to do it actively. I don't know what it looks like or how we do that, but we need to do it, both to Indigenous people and to African Americans and multiple groups. You know what I mean? We've done things that are wrong. We need to make them right. And we continue to just let them be wrong. You know what I mean? We just sit in that. We just sitting in that. And I don't think it benefits anybody.
I mean, not to get too political, but my, pessimistic worldview is that this fucking country is just being subjected to the will of mass corporations and money and political interest groups and lobbyists. And I don't think any of them give 2 fucking shits about the Native Americans or other underrepresented groups. I think that it's hot topic bullshit, but the real masters that are being served are the fucking corporations. And that's I don't have any fucking thing to back it up. But if you look at, ye shall judge them by the fruits of your labors, and fuck all of them. What are you actually doing? I'm not impressed. And it's kind of why I don't get onto politics and stuff too much on the show, because the world is kind of a shit show, in case you didn't know. And I do like Bikes Are Dead to kind of be a little bit of a reprieve and just like, okay, we can just kind of like chill and like listen to Bikes Are Death. But I don't want to ignore stuff, but it is kind of, it's like, there's just a lot of it, and so it can get heavy, man.
And I wasn't trying to like totally derail your podcast people are just having fun.
Dude, I kept it. I'm the one who brought it back to it. I wanted to talk about it,
It just like at the end of the day, for me, it comes back to the people that built the wealth in this country, and like that, you know, they gave their lives and their land and, you know, basically that, their lives and their land to like create the wealth in this country, don't benefit from it. But that's wilderness is like, that's like the first layer of my current interaction with wilderness. Like, I'm not even on my own land, you know. There is the reality of the United States government and these being managed as public lands, but there's that backstory of them being stolen lands, and the people they were stolen from are continue to be oppressed today. And that's, you know, that's fucked. I don't know. Exactly. I don't have a great answer. If you wanted, I could talk about cows in the wilderness. That's something.
Yeah, let's talk about cows.
Don't put them in the wilderness. They shouldn't be there. We need to reform the Wilderness
okay,
Act.
give me some backstory, because the little bit that I know is that something to do with how cattle ranchers back in the early days negotiated to like use the land, and they would pay like grazing fees or something like that.
Yeah.
But now they're kind of like taking over the fucking land.
Basically, I mean, it's the same kind of stuff. There were these structures, you know, societal, like governmental structures built to protect some people and to oppress other people. And cattle ranchers, or oil, whatever those people are called, oil people. And yeah, any sort of extractive industries were given preference on public land. So Forest Service and BLM are both land of many uses, is sort of the tagline. So it's multiple use, recreation, logging, grazing, mining. That's all written into public lands and how we manage them. The Wilderness Act specifically allows cattle, despite saying something about, you know, sort of that racist underpinning of untrammeled by man is how the lands are defined, you know, pristine, untrammeled by man, which that's a fucked up statement anyway. But then when you put cows on them, I'm like, cows are an exotic species introduced. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't fit with the language of the bill that it's in. And just like, you know, effectively it, you know, reduces biodiversity. You lose a lot of riparian areas. There are a lot of negative on the ground effects that then come after that. And now here we're also dealing with ranchers bulldozing in the wilderness, locking gates, so access to public land is an issue.
Right.
And the land management agencies just sort of go along with it because I'm not sure why.
What is the relationship there financially? Are the ranchers paying to be able to use that land? What?
Yeah.
Why are they there? Like,
they do pay.
I mean,
they do pay, but they pay a greatly reduced rate. If they were to raise the same amount of cattle on private land, it would cost 12 times as much, I think is what I read the other day. So they're paying this real small fee at a loss, basically, to the BLM. The BLM covers sort of the, what's the word I'm thinking of here? Like the administrative costs of managing the land. But then you're getting the land itself is being degraded. So that cost, they're not paying that. And we're not getting a huge benefit to society. You know what I mean? We're getting 2% of beef that we consume in the US is raised on public lands. 2%. And I don't want to discount the ranchers. I don't want to take a job from a rancher and say, what you're doing isn't valuable. I would instead say to them, what you're doing is valuable. You can stay on this land, and now you're growing biodiversity. We want you to help this herd of pronghorn grow in numbers. We'll pay you if you have X number of whatever plant it is.
Yeah.
We want a willow flycatcher habitat. You know, you grow that now. And the government pays
it's the
you
same thing as like if you go into a city. I'm a real estate agent, so like if you go into a city and you want to build like an apartment complex, the city will be like, okay, but you also have to build a park, you have to build a sidewalk, you have to build you know fire hydrants and all these other things. Like you can't just build a thing. And it sounds like a similar thing. It's like, okay, if you want to use the land, there's a cost, and it goes beyond, the 2 cents per acre that you're paying.
Yes.
There's a biodiversity factor. There's a, ecological impact that is needing to be accounted for.
And just be neighborly. You know what I mean? Just be neighborly. Don't lock the gate and try to tell me it's your land. We had an interaction here with a woman on public land. She'd crossed a small section of private land on a county road. In her mind, it was on a county road. Crossed a small section. I think in reality, crossed a small section of private back on public land. And the interaction with the rancher was essentially he assaulted her, like tried to take her bike, threatened her, and she's on public land. Like that's the part I don't understand. You're already getting this reduced rate. You basically have this corner of the monument to yourself. Like just be cool about it. We're not trying to hurt you. I tell the ranchers, give us your phone number. We'll call you if we see something wrong with your fence, with your gate, if we see a sick cow, whatever. And they don't want to do that. They want to harass this woman and take her bike. So this sort of like pushed me into a get cows off public lands, stance. But
well, I mean, there's some good reasons for cows to be off.
Let's just ask you anything.
I don't know. I'm tired of asking me things. What's harder, or which was more difficult or which was more nerve-wracking? Because now you are the first person that has ever been a guest on the podcast and also the host of the podcast. So which one is more nerve-wracking? Which one do you prefer?
Maybe it's just because I've been on twice now and I know you better, but this was way easier. Just asking stuff and saying stupid things. And yeah, I think being a host might be easier than being a guest.
Yeah, it's way easier.
Yeah.
It's way easier, especially once this was your first time. And when I retire, I can obviously I think we found my replacement. We'll just, we'll send over the paperwork. My people will call your people. But, once you do it a while, it's not that hard. I mean, we're talking about bikes and, if you have a curious personality, it's not too hard. But I think, to circle back to the very beginning, I think, there can become a level of comfortability with it, and you can get a little relaxed, with it.
Yeah.
I'm on episode 105 now, and I can, maybe I'm just like a little distractor or whatever. And so I'm not as like, but if you're that guest, people are hankering to get on here, I guess. And people are trying to use it as a platform and promote this and promote that. And so, and I get it. That's why I think it's good that I have this experience, because it's hard to be the guest. It's way harder to be the person that has to answer the questions. And I don't want to sound stupid. No one wants to sound stupid.
Exactly. If this were my podcast, I would now immediately, when we're done, I would just cut out all that stupid shit I just said.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So as the host, you're like, well, I can just say stupid shit and I'll just cut it out later. But as the guest, you're like, well, that's up to somebody else. And this is my one chance to sort of make this impression and have this big audience, because I don't have a big audience. I can't talk to however many people this podcast reaches on a daily basis.
1 million a day, I think.
Yeah. So when I was on it, yeah, exactly. So when I was on it, I'm like, oh man, there's all these people listening. The clock is running. What do I want to say? And then I talked about rim brakes a whole bunch. And
hey, whatever works, man. I think the coolest thing, or one cool thing about the podcast, is just is the collection of people that make it up. And I think the more we can learn and grow from each other, the better. And so everybody that's willing to add their voice to the conversation and, and bring their experiences to this little microcosm, it's just fun, man. Like you said, I really love it. I've made great friendships, and I would consider you one of them. I mean, you're like my spiritual advisor at this point. People don't know this, but I call you and you read your tarot cards, and that's how we get things done around here.
You're in serious trouble if I'm your spiritual advisor. Somebody did have a question about, you were mentioning that you love doing this. They're like, what is the hardest part? And maybe it's not about the podcast necessarily, but about doing what you love. What's the hardest
what
part?
is the hardest? Is it takes away from other things that you love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bike riding to be one of them.
Yeah. Spending time with your family.
Yeah, I mean that was actually the first one that came to my mind, but I'm trying to. It was like I'll say the bike one first, but yeah. It's so weird because I'm grateful, and then also it weighs on me. You know, this whole bikes or death thing. It weighs on me. It's a burden in a lot of ways, and I've created it, and now I'm trying to figure out how to operate in it and how to do it and how to make it make sense for me and everything. So, you know, I don't think I mentioned this yet, but I think one option is to kind of, I'm trying to slow down a little bit as much as I can. I think there's some things that I've been doing that I can cut out. There's a lot of shit. I manage like too many Instagram accounts and too much stuff going on. So I'm going to try to find ways to like cut out some of the stuff that maybe isn't necessary, because I think, you know, the real cool thing, what I really enjoy doing is going out, riding bikes, talking to people that ride bikes like this. I have a great time. I enjoy it. And I think I've overwhelmed myself with a lot of the externalities that can come along, and I'm an entrepreneur. You know, I've been kind of on my own doing my thing for a while, and I've learned how to run a business. And now I'm like, okay, you know, I don't know. Let's just slow down. You know, like, what do I want it to be? And I told you this on the phone the other day. Like, I always said when I started Bikes or Death that I have a job and I don't want or need another job, and Bikes or Death is just for fun. You know, before anything, before I even started a podcast, I don't know. I don't think I've ever said this, and I wanted to mention it. The reason for all of this was simply because I was unhappy with my life. I was in a job and a relationship and stuff that wasn't doing anything for me. You know, like I don't know, you know, I wasn't living this fulfilled life, and I'm a person who is always trying to work and become a better person. And so I was like, what can I do to, you know, feel better about myself? And the answer became this podcast. It became just talking to people and engaging, and I don't know, like it wasn't too much more than that. It's just talking to people on bikes and trying to spread this stoke, I guess, as much as I can. And I just wanted to put something good out into the world. That's what it was. Good into the world. It didn't matter if 5 people listened or 5,000. I just wanted to put something out there that made me feel good, because my life and everything, you know, I mean, not everything, but a lot of things in my life weren't good and weren't bringing me joy or happiness or fulfillment. And so I did this for me as an outlet to like feel like I did something, you know. And so, yeah, just slow down and like remember that, you know.
I dig it. I dig it.
Thanks, buddy.
What about the East Texas Showdown? How you feeling about that?
Blown away. There's a lot of opportunity in building community. That's something I'm super stoked on. And I think, to circle back to that question about offering opportunities to underrepresented groups, females, you know, everybody, like, I've learned some things that I want to do differently in the future and better. And anyway, that's kind of like my only negative that I have right now, but the response has been stupid. I mean, how many people are, you have no idea the number of emails and messages and stuff that I get from people all the time, still to this day, trying to get in and bribe me and, you know, talk sweet to me or whatever they got to do to try to get in. So it's pretty crazy. So that's one aspect of it. I am blown away and pleased with the response. And I guess I would just address that really quickly, because I do get a lot of messages the reason why we've capped it at 100 people is because we have insurance for 100 people, and we have a permit from 2 national forests, Sam Houston National Forest and Davy Crockett National Forest, to host this event in Texas, where there is extremely limited public land, and cyclists aren't exactly everybody's favorite group. This is a big deal. And I care that this event is ran well. I care that it is ran according to leave no trace principles, to all rules and regulations, and that we represent the cycling community and the bikepacking community well, because I'm trying to plant a seed here in an area where we could grow a lot. There's a lot of opportunity for growth, and the demand and the interest in this event shows it. And so now it's about how can we capitalize on that? How can we grow that? And that's what I'm focused on doing. And so I am flattered that there are so many people that want to come and experience this event, but it just is what it is. And we're going to host the most clean as a whistle event as possible. And, we have a good relationship with the National Forest right now. We earned that with the first event. And, there is value in having, park forest staff, and they've notified all the police services in that area and medical services. People know we're out there, we're safety and is a huge, huge thing for me. And so, yeah, anyway, there's a lot of friends. I have friends that are begging me, to get on. I'm like, dude, I can't, it's like nobody's getting in. We're done, you're coming.
I'm coming.
I'm looking, and
what's the local, what's the a local restaurant owner or business owner or just a local person? Do they know about it? How do they feel about it? Have you got the local vibe? Because that's really what you're talking about, capitalizing on it, but not just for you, for your whole community, right?
Yeah,
for everybody.
not for me. No. That's a good question, Matt. You're an excellent host. The Bullet Grill, where we host the start and finish line, has been fucking amazing. This guy, it's just a country. I mean, we're in the middle of a national forest. Okay. There's no population around to speak of. And this guy, for some reason, erects this really nice restaurant with a stage for live music. He does comedy out there, but make no mistake about it, these are Trump supporters. These are, hardcore right wingers. I'm sure, I don't know, but I mean, that's the territory that we're in, And so it's been really cool to, from the very beginning, I went in to have a meeting with the owner of this business because I wanted to base the entire thing around his, establishment. And I had to explain to him what bikepacking was. And I mean, I look like you. He's like, why is this homeless guy in here talking to me about bikes? And, it's not an easy sell. I mean, you can imagine going to a rancher and being like, no, sir, I have a right to be here. And, it's a different perspective, and so it's been really fun to grow that relationship. And dude, they have killed it. They've hung our banner. They've hung all of our plaques. They post all of our shit on Instagram. And more than all that, they, so last year they let us park and camp in their parking lot. But since then they've cleared out, they have 5 acres behind the restaurant. So they went in and cleared all of it out. They left the trees and stuff, but they made it all camping area. So now we can have all 100 people camping. They bring in porta potties. They made a shower, an outdoor shower just for us. And, it's amazing. But not only that, but when we're all there, and you'll see it, man, when we're all there at the Bullet, at the end, when people are starting to come in, they have the dot watching going on. So you got all of us hippie, I don't know, hippie. I mean, we're just, all of us, bike packers and people that, have just done this really hard thing with rednecks and the locals and, just, small town Texas folks, small town Texas, and they are getting into it and they are cheering. And when a new racer comes into the finish line, they're running out there too. It's not just us. We're all rooting for them. It's like it's the fucking Super Bowl, And I had several people from outside the bikepacking community that were like, man, tell me more about this. And how can I get on a bike? And, how could I do this? This one guy was like 6'6" redneck guy. Like, he took me aside and had tears in his eyes, Matt. I'm not kidding you. He was blown away by what he saw. And he took me aside in this restaurant and was like, man, I'm not kidding, man. This really this touched me, this affected me. And I feel like I'm going to be a different person after this, even knowing that that's possible. That happened. Some hillbilly redneck.
That's success. To me, that's a successful event. That's how you judge it.
Boom.
Right there.
And one last thing, on the flip side, we had a lot of people. I think everybody that I talked to that came from outside of Texas had a completely different view or an experience than what they thought they were going to have. And it's a perfect illustration of how we're so fucking divided, and we don't need to be. There's commonality, and I don't have all the answers, but in this small world of bikepacking and bikepack racing, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to try to get as many people out there riding their bike, living a more intentional, a more exciting and fulfilling life, and going outside more and hoping to cross some bridges and barriers along the way, and exactly what that looks like and how, I don't know, but your heart's in the right place. You that's your compass, and that's kind of the direction I'm going to go. I don't know why I got onto exactly that tangent, but yeah.
No, that's okay. Is that something you're going to tell? So like me as a participant, am I going to be told explicitly when I show up? I think I remember telling that to people at the Danger Bird, like, listen, this is a new thing to this area. So you're an ambassador for bikes and bikepacking. You got to be on your shit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You need to be as generous and loving and compassionate with everybody you see as you can. Because you're in their town. Don't be a dick, basically, is sort of how people like to say it.
Yeah, you're going to
I assume I'll be going in little country stores and little places to resupply along the way.
So, I mean, part of the route is I prioritized the small country town experience. I wanted to provide even Texans a opportunity to even dig a little bit deeper, and go a little bit off track. It's hard to do in Texas. We don't have the remote wilderness and all that. So, but you get to experience some really cool little country towns, and all the people in there are just great. And you're absolutely right. My pre-race meeting sounds a lot like what I was just talking about. And I mean, I tell them that this is my backyard. I mean, this is 50 minutes away from me. This is where I recreate. This is where I host free bikepacking events. We're planning a kid packing jamboree this Father's Day weekend that we're going to host like outdoor educational programs. And I mean, it's going to be really fucking cool, but that's in Davy Crockett National Forest. Like, this is my backyard, and my speech to the people who come and participate in the East Texas Showdown is that you're going to respect it like it's my backyard, and you're going to not only respect that, but you're going to remember that you're a member of a larger community that is trying to be better and be an example, or be, maybe not better, but just be another example of just being good humans. And especially when we're going through public lands that are questionable, let's respect the land that we're crossing through, and let's fucking leave it better than we found it. All those things. Yeah, I'm very passionate about all that stuff. So I will
you have a lot of responsibility, right? I mean, when you show up for an event.
Yeah, I'm not fucking around whenever it comes to all that kind of stuff. I do have a lot of responsibility because it is not easy to accomplish what we did. Whenever I teared up when we got our permitting for this, I teared up, man. I mean, it's a big deal that we got this, and so many racers or races don't get permitting and just kind of do things outlaw and whatever. And I'm not calling them out. I'm in Texas where things are the way they are, and I'm very, very proud of doing it kind of the right way. And I'm serious about it. Texas has a long way to go, and I want to be part of the progress forward.
Yeah. And I think the participants have a big responsibility. It's fun, and I have the privilege of getting into the event and going and doing it. But that anytime you're outside, you have a responsibility. And I think that's what I try to remember first. Like I have things that I need to be doing here, not just taking care of myself. Even if I'm at mile 350 and I'm cracked and I want to just meet my own needs, I still have this responsibility to the community and to the people around me to be a good person. You know what I mean? That's easy to forget for some people when they're racing and they're going hard and it's about their own effort. But you can't. I think it's helpful to remember that.
Very important to remember. That's a good point. And the one that I would like to add to yours is not only the people who are, going fast, but I think that to you and I grew up in Boy Scouts. I'm an Eagle Scout, and I was from a very young age, I was taught leave no trace principles and all kinds of outdoor ethics. And yeah, I mean, I know you likewise are very knowledgeable about this, but part of the responsibility we have is to continue to educate and continue to be examples of the right way and the best way to recreate outdoors, because it is a responsibility, it is a privilege, and you got to be respectful of it. One, because it's our duty to be respectful, it's the right thing to do, but also because it's the fucking wilderness and you need to know what you're doing and stuff, and be mindful of that. So I think that there's what about the idea? So it's leave no trace. We talk about that mainly when we're out in the backcountry. I think it's true in town too. A lot of the same principles apply. But then I think there's a second thing that's sort of like, do leave a trace when you're in having interactions with people. You know what I mean? You want to leave an impact on those people. Hey, those cyclists were super generous. Oh, like when you go to a you know what I mean? Like you want to leave them thinking we want more of that. Yes. You know what I mean? They gave us tips that were ridiculously big. Yeah. They were super nice to all the staff and you know what I mean? That kind of interaction. Yes. Is a part of bike packing, and it's not a part of other forms of outdoor recreation, because you tend to go out into the backcountry and then you come home and that's it. You don't encounter towns and locals along the way. Yeah. But with an event like this, you're sort of doing both. You're sort of doing that leave no trace thing. And then in town, you're like, how much love and support can I show for this little town when I'm here? Damn. You know what I mean? How can I actually leave a trace on these people where they're like, man, we want more of that. Those are the kind of people we want to connect with and have in our town. Because then you start building that thing where people aren't running you off the road. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. No, they're like, we like those people. They come in, they treat us well. Whenever we went to Hatch, New Mexico, and I went ahead and ordered all of us burgers. I mean, I dropped $100, it was like a $70 tab, and I gave them a $25 tip because I got there like last minute and I was scrambling, and I want to leave a good impression on the people that I encounter, especially when I'm on my bike. Yeah, that is so crucial. So leave no trace. Maybe it's leave no trace, comma, leave an impression. Yeah. Leave an impression. You know what I mean? Because you do want to leave an impression. I love that. God, that's Matt, you're good. Leave no trace, comma. I mean, I don't know. Leave an impression. It's actually Bronco Tryhard, not Matt. But I'm not gonna get. You are trying hard with that Bronco shit. Yeah, that's good, man. I really appreciate that. And you had asked me what kind of interactions like you might have with people along the route, and I think that they're going to be good. And I know, because I've talked to some of them, I know that some of them really enjoyed, like the camp host at Mile 120 Salmon Lake, I believe is what it's called. Really cute. I think you're going to just blow past 120, but you might swing in and just say hi to her because she's just a sweet lady. But I mean, just couldn't be more accommodating. And you really run into that a lot in Texas. People are just really gracious, but yeah, sometimes in their cars, not so much. But yeah, again, the most remote roads, least amount of traffic, safety was my number one thing. So you'll be fine.
Yeah. All right.
Don't be scared.
All right. I'm not too worried.
No.
I'm not too worried.
Nothing to be worried about.
I remember when I hiked it, this is like one of the moments on the Appalachian Trail that really stuck out to me. I was having the shittiest day, and I was as scruffy as I've ever been, and I had this pink hat on. And then I was in the South, so I'm in Virginia, like Southern Virginia, and I saw some guys on a porch, and I'm like, oh man, these guys are going to give me shit. You know what I mean? I'm going by here. It's late in the evening, and there was a rebel flag flying, and they had like Leonard Skinner playing or whatever. I'm like, I don't know that I'm going to connect with these guys, and I'm actually a little worried that they're going to like chuck their beer bottles at me or something. You know what I mean? And they didn't. They invited me up to the porch. They had like this big sword collection in the back, so I'm like more nervous than ever when they're just. And it turned out to be great. And I sat there and talked to the guys and drank a couple beers, and it was really nice. And I'm privileged. Other people, obviously, with the rebel flag, would not have gotten such a welcome. No, so I'm glad I did.
Yeah, that's.
But it was an unexpected thing, and it stuck out with me. I'm like, okay, we are just people trying to get by, you know what I mean? And they wanted to hear my story, and
yeah, cool. I think, goddamn, another outside of the scope of what I like to normally talk about, but again, back to like corporate interests. There's so much corporate and money interest in keeping people confused and polarized and angry and divisive and all these things. We're being programmed to do that. And so while we are responsible for our actions, our beliefs, our ethics, and all these things, I think that people, and myself included, are finding it harder and harder to find real leaders, leaders, people you can really look to and say, I trust that person. I think they're telling me the truth. Who do you point to and say, oh, this organization, this news outlet, this whatever is a leader and we can follow this person. And so with the lack of that, what do you get? You get fucking shitty leaders. I don't know if you followed that thing on Reddit, the work reform thing where he went on Fox News and anyway, he like represented.
No, I didn't.
It's just funny. You get shitty leaders is what you get.
Yeah. Which we have.
Yeah. We got some of those. We've had them. We got them.
They're not true. They're not leading for real. They're just trying to reflect what they see and trying to get the vote. It's almost like we have people running for office, and that's a skill that it takes to get elected. But then you have to govern and lead. And that's something very few people are interested in. You know what I mean? That because you're not gonna make friends with everybody. I'm not gonna make friends by saying we need to get livestock off public land. That's not gonna get me elected in southern New Mexico. I'm not running for office, by the way, and I wouldn't. But if I were, I would say that anyway. I would say, yeah, my name is Bronco, and I don't think we should have cows on public land.
So here's another question I was talking to my buddy Ryan about is why are we starved for leaders? Is it that people with integrity and smarts or whatever are busier being scientists and teachers and and doing things like that to where all we get is shitty people who want to run for office that are egotistical and want to line their own pocketbooks and do insider stock trading deals at the cost of whatever. I mean, like, why is it that someone like you, I mean, I believe you. I believe that if I was in a political office, I would be like, oh my gosh, we've got so much work to do. And at least, I don't know, pick one thing and like fucking take a stand, or it's like you got one term. It's like how I feel with the podcast. I mean, this is a responsibility, you know, it's like I got one chance and I'm trying to do my best and I make mistakes, but I feel like I would do the same thing if I was a politician. I would be like, I want to represent myself well. I want to leave this thing. This is an opportunity to make a difference. And I want my family to be able to like, dude, look at what Patrick did when he was in office. Can you believe that fucking Patrick? That guy did that?
Yeah.
But instead you
run for office because you have a vision of a better community.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's why people run. But there are people like that. We've got some city councilors here and a state rep who's on our board for the Monumental Loop. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
And she leads like that.
Yeah.
Like true leadership. Like
Who is
this is
the
what
name?
is right. Angelica Rubio, and she fights for what she thinks is right, not what somebody tells her is right, not what the correct thing of the day is. She's like, this is what's right for the people of my district.
That's good.
And we have city councilors like that too,
good.
and there are some, but it's harder for them then to maybe to get to a national level because they're honest and
they're not marketable, and they can't be bought. Who is paying? So you talked about getting elected is a skill. It's a skill, but it's a business, right? So getting elected means campaigning. It means politicking to all these different interests so that they can max out their PACs to give you money so that when you get in office, you can do them favors. Boom. I mean, that eliminates... That eliminates good people who can't be bought. Like if you and I go there and some fucking Joe Oil comes up and says, listen, what we're going to do is you're going to get in there and we're going to wipe out Beer's heirs and we're going to just fucking mine the shit out of it. And all you got to do is sign on the dotted line. And you and I are going to kick that guy in the fucking balls and tell him to go take a hike. I think we know why there's no good people in politics.
Yeah, I think we've settled, and I think we know why you normally don't talk about politics on your show.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's too easy. It's too easy to get heated. You know what I mean? And just like you want it to be a space where we don't do that. So you can cut anything you want here. I mean,
I don't know.
I won't be upset.
I might leave it because I'm
glad we're just having this discussion. You know what I mean? If you don't think your listeners want to hear it,
I think it's good because I think. I was interviewed recently by this Masters of Journalism student, and he was asking me all these questions. And one of the things that he asked me about was specifically this, like, why don't cover more controversial stuff? And so I think it's worth mentioning because I think other people might not realize this, but I have intentionally wanted it to be a space free from negativity and drama and all the woes, because there's a lot of woes. My life is difficult. I don't bring all of my personal shit into the podcast. Y'all don't hear all of it. I don't bring all the stuff from outside the world and bring it on here. I want it to be a vacation from your problems. I mean, I think it's okay to do that. I feel like all the other stuff it's just, I don't know. It's out there everywhere. It's just everywhere.
I agree with you.
You're exactly right. You said, you're like, and now we know why you don't do it. Because we could sit here for the end of fucking time. And I said this on this other podcast too, the one I did with the journalism guy is, Bikes or Death is limiting. I do have the desire to start another podcast. I can't right now, but maybe one future me. But I would love to talk about some other things. I would like to learn. I live in a university town. I'd love to go and talk to some of these professors and see what's going on in the world. I mean, I think there's a lot to talk about, and I'm interested in that stuff. But for me, Bikes or Death just isn't where I do it. It's just bikes. Yeah. Trying.
And I don't do it. I mean, I have places like that in my life and put friendships and relationships that aren't, let's try to solve societal ills. Let's just hang out and ride bikes, so I get it.
Yeah. Someone actually, you didn't ask me about the one where they said that I'm very empathetic. And
I did hear that. Yeah, I saw that one. I didn't ask about it, but
I didn't even.
What do you say about it?
I didn't even know what empathetic meant, so I had to Google it. But it means, for anybody else who doesn't know, that I'm like, I guess, really understanding, and I really kind of feel what the other person is like going through or whatever. So, I mean, that was a really nice compliment, and I think it comes from. I am a very humble person. I joke around a lot. I have a bold personality in some ways. I know that, but on the inside, I'm a teddy bear. I'm humble, and it comes from being wrong a lot. I don't know. I always, but I've just been wrong a lot. I think people are wrong a lot. Scientists are wrong a lot. I mean, it's like, so I don't want to be, yeah. I don't know. Maybe that doesn't even answer why I'm empathetic, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. I don't know if that really answers.
I mean, I think some people just are and some people aren't.
Yeah. I care.
Life
it's like I say,
experiences.
I care though. Like whenever I talk to somebody, it's probably why I can go in with, blind usually and kind of just talk to them. I mean, we're not scripted right now, but I generally am enjoying talking to you and I'm wanting to hear what you want to say. And so it's a nice compliment. I'm very glad that I can be empathetic to people because I feel like I am empathetic. I feel like I'm empathetic to animals. I mean, I don't know. I have long conversations about, our impact in the natural world and the real world. I care about a lot of stuff. I want to be a good person. I'm trying. I've spent a lot of my life kind of, fucking around and doing stupid shit. And I've like set a course of trying to be a better person. I'm still on that journey. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what that is. And yeah, I'm on the road to glory.
I think my phone is about to die. I've got it.
Good, because
few minutes left.
I legitimately have to stay up until whatever time to pack.
Yeah.
For Big Ben. So
right. Well, we should wrap it up then.
Yeah.
What now? Do you at the end now say? Do I ask you to say go ride your damn bike? Is that what happens? The guest is supposed to say at the end because you asked Shell. You're like, hey Shell, can you give me a go ride your damn bike?
Yeah. But how many other times have you heard that?
Only one.
Exactly.
That's the only one.
And so you're drawing on that one thing. So what normally happens is as the host, you would say,
this is Bronco Tryhard. Thanks for listening. Now go ride your damn bike.
Boom.
Like that.
We load up the bikes. We ride away from home. Could be.
Nobody keeps their tent in their living room, though. That's the part that always trips me up. You left your tent on the living room shelf.
Yeah.
I don't keep my tent in the living room. Is that a Canadian thing, you think? Keeping your gear in the living room?
Yeah. So Canadian of him. All right. Yeah, man. I before we get off, I want to genuinely thank you for offering. For anybody, you offered to do this, to host the podcast. Obviously, like you said, it's super easy, so no sweat off your back. But it helped me out a lot because the idea of just talking into a microphone, answering these questions, it actually would have really sucked. And it was one of those things where I put it out, hit 10K on Instagram, and I'd seen other people do an AMA. And so I was like, I guess I'll do that. And then once all the questions started coming in, I was like, fuck, now I gotta like answer all these questions, to myself. And it's just not as much fun. So thank you for hosting today's episode of the Bikes for Death podcast.
I don't totally regret it. It was pretty fun.
Sweet. All right. Good night.
All right. Talk to you later. Have a good trip, dude. Happy birthday.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Wish you were going.
Me too.
All right. See you. Bye. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. A big shout out to Bronco Tryhard again for coming on and hosting today's episode. I hope everybody enjoyed it. And, I'll be honest that sometimes podcasting is hard. It is hard to try to be very authentic, very honest, very open, as much as possible, you know, in a what I would consider a short podcast. I mean, there's, you know, we all have a lot going on, and I don't think Bikes or Death is always the exact format to bring everything into the podcast, but I do try to lead with my heart and be an example of just being a real person who makes mistakes and is willing to own up to them and talk about them. And, you know, releasing this episode was not easy. I don't want people to think that, oh, Patrick he's just good at this. And, you know, I don't know what people think exactly, but, you know, this is hard. It is hard to put yourself out there and to discuss ideas and, I mean, all kinds of stuff. You're just opening yourself up to opinions and people's thoughts, and I hear them, and it's not always easy, but it's something that I do believe in. I think it's important, and I think I've always wanted Bikes or Death to be an authentic representation of myself and hopefully my guest, and, you know, not to overproduce a show just for entertainment purposes or for getting likes or followers or whatever. You know, I just want to continue to find ways to deliver episodes that resonate with me, and hopefully if I'm feeling it, then y'all will feel it too. So thanks everybody for being on this journey with me. It really is a journey, and as I mentioned, I'm still trying to figure out how to be a better person. I'm a work in progress, and I'm totally fine taking y'all along for the ride. But I do appreciate you being here. I do appreciate all the support, and I don't know, man. Let's just see where this thing goes. This last couple of weeks have been a really good time for me to reflect on, like I said in the episode, my relationship with Bikes or Death. And I am going through my own pains with it and trying to figure out, you know, what a healthy relationship looks like with Bikes or Death, considering I have another full-time job and I'm a single stay-at-home dad, and I have 2 daughters that are obviously really important to me. And so, you know, as with anything in life, it's important that we find the balance, and Bikes or Death has just kind of grown. And yes, I've had a hand in that, but yeah, it's still, you know, I've never been in this position before. I've never hosted a podcast. I've never had this many people following or being interested in whether it's me or my guest or the podcast. You know, there's a lot of eyeballs, a lot of ears on the podcast, and, you know, I've never been in a situation like that. So I am very much learning how to manage the podcast, learn how to be a podcast host while also maintaining all the other things going on in my life. And so I really do appreciate everybody who's just willing to stick in there with me and be along for the journey. And, you know, we'll see where it goes, but it has been an awesome ride. I'm so grateful that I've been able to reach so many people all over the world with stories of bikepacking, the outdoors, but more importantly, the people. What I always said in the beginning, what did I always say? I said, this is a podcast that talks about bikepacking, adventuring, and the cool people who participate. And it really is about the people. And I think we can learn so much from each other. And I love getting to meet people in the community and learn from you and grow from you. And hopefully the more conversations we have, we as a collective unit can all be better. We can all learn, and we can all understand that we're all on a journey together, and nobody's perfect. Nobody has it 100% figured out. And we're always a work in progress. So yeah, it's an absolute honor to be in this position. And as much as it is a challenging relationship that I have with Bikes or Death sometimes, it is a relationship that I value and I want to keep doing. So, all right, well, that's enough. Y'all have listened to probably about 2.5 hours of me talking. So let's cut this one off, eh? But I do appreciate it. And I think that's it for me. Why don't we have Bronco Tryhard close out today's episode?
This is Bronco Tryhard. Thanks for listening. Now go ride your damn bike.
It was the middle of the night. You grabbed your knife and you held it tight. The sounds of beasts kept you awake. The sounds sounds they made kept you afraid. In the morning, you packed your bike. Memories forgotten from the previous night. You rode faster than ever before. Was it your imagination or merely folklore? Fear turned into strength as you pushed further. Every pedal stroke stronger and firmer. Your bike feels weightless, your legs aren't tired. You think to yourself, just a few more miles. Bikes or death. Bikes or death. Podcast.